The digital world has given us so many amazing things. The ability to connect with people from afar, the ability to get an education. If you really want it, you can find just about anything out there. But with any good thing, there's also the potential for some negativity. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's been this kind of weird dynamic we've seen where social media and the desire to get those likes has led to some really, really poor financial decisions. So I've brought Chad Roller, my partner in crime from Conway at Gen Wealth Financial Advisors, to join me today on this episode because I know you have a ton of experience getting likes on social media.
Well, first off, we don't do any crimes, so
that's true.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
we got to clarify that.
I should, words matter.
But no, I appreciate you having me today. I think this is a tough one. This is tough to swallow right here. I mean, this is something not a lot of people want to talk about, right?
Yes.
Looking wealthy versus being wealthy.
Yes.
First, I think we could probably define maybe what that wealthy is, what we're talking about.
Well, and I think to a degree, though, that's an individual decision.
Absolutely.
You know, what I would consider wealthy versus what you would might be a little different. But what we've seen, this trend that concerns us, is it said, there are 58% of Americans, the last time there was a study done on this, that are living paycheck to paycheck. And I would almost argue they're living debt payment to debt payment based on what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think that's probably some truth to that. But I think maybe we just take this wealthy and say financially healthy.
That's a really good way to define it.
I think that's probably a good way for us to
At
to
least
position.
As far as we would define it.
Exactly. So I think for the purpose of discussion today, I think when we're talking about looking wealthy versus financially healthy, I think that's where we kind of want to talk about some principles and some things. There's a cost to that.
Yes. And there was a study done by Credit Karma that found that 40% of young adults say that they will spend money to experience things for the sake of putting it on social media, which is, to me, a little bit crazy, but I also am a little bit old for what would be considered this group of people. But that push to want to be social media famous and look like you're wealthy, like you have this extravagant lifestyle, instead of building a healthy financial base.
Yeah, and you can do a lot with Photoshop and a lot of things on.
There are a lot of people that have gotten caught.
Well, but it is a desire. I think everybody has a desire to be accepted, be wanted,
Yes.
to be looked after, to be respected. So, on social media, that small snapshot of saying it look like we have it all together, but at the end of the day, you're not very healthy.
Yes.
Right. So, you may be looking like you're at the gym, but maybe at home you're packing down those donuts.
Why are you calling me out, Chad?
I'm not
Why you
trying to call anybody out right here. But because we won't talk about the fitness side of things, we'll stay on the financial
we're stay in our lane
healthy, right?
as financial advisors.
Yeah. But there's a cost to this.
Yes, and I think that for us, the reason we want to talk about this today is because we want people to be financially healthy. So we're going to talk about the impact of this decision-making process of letting the likes lead your financial decisions. And first, you need to understand there's a cost to spending. 27% of regular luxury consumers have a household income of less than $50,000 a year based on a global data report that we recently read. So if you get caught in the idea of looking luxurious and you're spending that kind of money, that does add up. So the average price of a luxury purchase is going to be about $520. So if you took, let's say, that $520 and you started at age 18 investing that, when you hit age 65 on an average rate of return of about 8 to 10%, you're at $600,000 if you had invested that $500 a year instead. That's expensive when you look at it over the long haul. So there's a cost. Once you spend $1, it's gone.
Right.
So that's what we're wanting people to think of, is if you're letting that like impulsive, we've talked about this before, that impulsivity of wanting that immediate gratification, there's a cost to that.
There is. And I think the quick fix to that is you've got to have a budget. And you've had shows about budgeting and saving money and those type of things. But also overspending that budget is really where you can get into that cost quickly, because that's going to affect the next month.
Yes. And I think we've met with people before who will say, well, I don't have any extra money right now. I don't have any extra money. And there's been maybe one or two that genuinely were going to have to add income to be able to make any changes for their life. In most cases, when they review that budget and they start paying attention to their spending, they'll find pockets of money that they could redirect.
Yeah. And the second thing here is that money that they don't know where to redirect.
Mm-hmm.
is that money to buy now, pay later.
And this is one of those sneaky things. We did a whole episode on this a while back because it's sneaky. So you go online, you pick an item, you put it in your cart. They have this on Amazon. I've actually seen it and went, what is this?
It used to be just Walmart. Walmart was the only one with layaway.
Well, and it was a little different process. So, now you have to let's talk about layaway though. Let's back up to that because I think that's a good parallel with layaway because we were of that financial group that needed a layaway in our lives when I was little. You picked the item, you took it to the counter, they opened your account, you started making payments, but you didn't get to take the item home till it was paid for. So you had to wait. You had to delay that gratification. It's different now. You go in your cart, you add the item, you select the pay later option, and they start you on that payment plan, and it feels seamless. But what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure later because if you can't afford it now,
there's a good chance you can't afford it later.
Exactly.
Because that new shiny item next month that you need to, make that post about or continue on with that life. It's a lifestyle, right?
Yes.
It's not that you're going to get that instant gratification and it's going to cure for the next 6 months, right? It's that constant instant gratification that a lot of people are seeking that they fall into that trap. So as you do this, it compounds over time. And that's where you can really get in trouble.
And a lot of people miss the fine print. You're not just paying, if that item was $50, you're not paying $50 for that item now. You're paying $60, $65, $70 because there's interest on top of the cost that you're paying for and probably not even aware of. And this is not the way you want to make financial decisions. I used to say, don't buy now, pay later. Save now, buy later. Yeah. Because then you're staying inside your means.
Yeah. So that time that you're paying it off, it looks like you're wealthy, but that financial health underboard, and it affects you, in your true physical health too.
Yes.
I mean, debt plays a toll on people.
Yes.
It'll make your hair go gray quick.
Yes. And you're not going to get ahead in your financial journey if you're constantly having to chase this. It's like a snowball that's just rolling out of control. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger the more often you use it. And one thing that's been interesting when I was studying this was that the research shows that people are using these buy now, pay later options for household items. So think laundry detergent. If you can't afford laundry detergent, it's time to really evaluate your income and your expenses and make some hard choices.
Yeah, and that's not easy to do. And I,
No.
We don't take this subject lightly at all because I know there's, inflation's real.
Yes.
Household expenses are up. There's, wages are not, keeping up with inflation in a lot of areas. But I think at the core of this, knowing that what you have and naming those dollars, again, going back to that budget will help you give you that freedom. So that discipline actually creates that freedom. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is, what kind of joy could you have away from the stress of trying to keep up that social media or keep up that, that looking wealthy. What does the other side of it look like? Is there more freedom on the other side when all that is not present?
And you're right. The discipline is hard at first. Saying no to those things is going to be hard at first, but just about anything worth chasing is hard at first. It's going to take time and building good habits. But if you get this mentality of, I'll make more money later, I'll deal with it later, later's never going to come.
Yeah, or buy now, pay later.
Yes.
That later comes sooner than expected, right?
Yes.
It's every month. It's not like they skip your water and the light bill, right? They want that every month. But I know this is kind of a weird topic from a financial advisor for us to talk about social media and looking wealthy and everything, but we see this every day because it restricts people from being able to save for their retirement.
Yes.
And that's what you're really robbing is that later, success, that financial health and being able to step away from work and being able to keep up the lifestyle that you want later on and not have just some fake, let's call it what it is. This creating this fake lifestyle right now.
Yes. And another thing that we've seen with the access to media, the access to different platforms online that you need to be careful of, and I'm calling this buyer beware, is that anybody can pop on in front of a camera like this and give you advice. And it's kind of probably feels weird for me to be the one saying this because this is, if you're on YouTube right now watching me, I'm telling you to be careful of people just like me. in a way, because if you get online, you can get on TikTok, you can get on Facebook, you can get on Instagram, all those different platforms, and you can find people who call themselves financial gurus. But that doesn't mean they are who they present themselves to be. There are people who aren't licensed like we are, who haven't taken time to really study this field, that are really just giving you their opinions. That whether they're biased or not, they're just giving you their opinions and they have no facts to back it up. So you need to be careful to research those that you're going to follow to make sure they don't have a bias that's creating their position on that thing, to make sure they know what they're talking about, and make sure that it applies to you as well. So if you're trying to filter that advice and make sure that you've got someone qualified to give you that advice, a great resource for you would be to use brokercheck.com to look up the person you're following, because if you are licensed like we are, you're going to be listed and their licensing information will be on there too. So you'll know how many years experience they have, what their licensing allows them to sell as well. So that'll help you kind of filter through some of those gurus that you might see.
So the last part of this is looking financially healthy versus kind of looking wealthy, right? And this is kind of where we get to spend a lot of time with clients going into retirement. That's where it becomes cool.
Yes.
Being financially healthy becomes cool when you're walking into retirement and becoming financially independent. We see the benefit of this delayed gratification of not living the last 30 to 40 years under, payments.
Yes. And I think we've seen it even in younger clients. We've had clients who have reached that point where they're making wise financial decisions and they're not living under the stress of, what if my fridge breaks down? Would I be able to replace it? Or if my car breaks down, not having that stress of what happens if I miss a paycheck. It's freedom. Being financially independent, having true wealth is freedom.
It is freedom. And we see that, social media is a great thing, right? We utilize social media. It's a way to stay connected, but creating more harm to yourself internally. And those people that are liking those posts are not around helping you pay those debt payments.
Yes.
Or, making those monthly payments to the credit card company or for those things that you've put on layaway or whatever it may be. So, realizing that trade-off and losing, that financial health is just not worth it.
Yes. And if you're struggling with where to start with that, you're in a great place. You're starting in a great place. You're educating yourself. That is really, really important. I always tell people, what you feed is what grows. So if you're feeding yourself financial education that is sound financial education, you're more likely to make wise choices.
You are, and don't beat yourself up for that one thing. We're not saying don't go out and buy anything, or don't treat yourself or invest in yourself or anything like that. Don't hear us saying that. But there are a lot of expenses and a lot of things that we buy that we look back 6 months or a year and be like, why in the world? Especially Amazon and all these things.
Me out, Chad.
Yes.
We already talked about this.
Well, we've got to practice it, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's just being aware. Being aware of, am I doing this for the right reasons? Is this going to make me healthier in 6 months from now? So I think those are things, some of the filters. And number one is, does it align with my budget?
Yes.
Because again, going back to that is that basic fundamental of establishing that budget. And if it's in the budget, then you've created that freedom to be able to buy that. But looking healthy financially is way better than looking wealthy.
Yes. So it's time for our 2 cents. Chad, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I just said it, but I'll repeat it again. Starting with a budget creates the discipline and the freedom to be able to be financially healthy. And I think that's really where you want to get, and being able to make the decisions and make adjustments within your household, within your budget, will give you the long-term joy that you're actually looking for, and not just on social media.
Yes, and I think it's also healthy to determine what your values are. Don't let someone else determine those for you. Determine what your values are, and then align your spending habits with those values so that you're moving yourself forward towards whatever it is you hope to achieve in your life. We thank you guys so much for joining us on Talking Sense this week. We look forward to catching you in the future. If something in this sparked something in you, we encourage you to like and follow And then also go get some of those free resources that are on our website, getreadyforthefuture.com. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to Talking Sense. And if you like what you hear, make sure and subscribe to the podcast to get all the newest episodes. The Gym Wealth team is available to you 24/7 at info@getreadyforthefuture.com or by calling our offices at 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526. And while we like to have fun here, we're also financial advisors, and that means disclosures. You should personally consult a financial advisor before making any investment, and no strategy can assure success. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Independent Advisor Alliance. Independent Advisor Alliance and Gym Wealth Financial Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.